This is a podcast from the Nuffield Department of Medicine, and today we've asked Dr. Angela Brueggemann about her research on pneumococcal diseases. Hi, Angela. Can you tell us a little bit about Streptococcus pneumoniae?
Streptococcus pneumoniae is one of the major bacterial pathogens worldwide. We often refer to it as the pneumococcus, and it infects people of all age groups, but particularly young children under the age of 5 and the older adults. It causes a range of different types of diseases, from relatively mild infections like ear infections in young children to much more serious diseases like pneumonia and meningitis. And those are potentially life-threatening diseases. Pneumonia is probably the most important serious pneumococcal disease, and the WHO, the World Health Organization, estimates that about 500,000 children die every year as a result of pneumococcal disease, and the vast majority of those children die of pneumococcal pneumonia.
Why are the pneumococcal diseases so difficult to treat?
It is possible to treat pneumococcal diseases with antibiotics, and the most commonly used antibiotics are penicillin and erythromycin. However, as you might expect, antibiotic resistance is a problem worldwide. Here in the UK, most pneumococci are susceptible to antibiotics, but for example in some parts of Asia, as much as 60% of pneumococci are resistant to antibiotics and often to many different types of antibiotics. So this makes it very difficult in some cases to treat pneumococcal infections.
How is your research helping with vaccine development?
So there are currently 2 vaccines available that were developed specifically for young children, and those are called pneumococcal conjugate vaccines. Now, both of these vaccines are very safe and very effective vaccines, and in fact represent a very big public health success story. So when these vaccines are introduced in countries, the burden of pneumococcal disease decreases significantly, and the number of children dying of pneumococcal disease decreases significantly. However, these vaccines do not protect against all types of pneumococci. So pneumococci have a coat which surrounds the bacterial cell, and that coat helps the organism to avoid being destroyed by the human immune system. Now, we know that there are over 90 different coats that the pneumococcus might wear, and these vaccines only protect against a very small number of those different coats. So this is a problem. Furthermore, we know that when the vaccine is introduced in a country, it changes the pneumococcal population, and sometimes that can also relate to changes in the DNA or the genetic components of the pneumococci, such that the pneumococcus evolves to escape the effects of the vaccine. So a major part of our research is to understand how the organism is evolving in response to vaccination.
So what are the most important lines of research that have developed in the past 5 to 10 years?
Probably the most important, most significant impact recently has been the ability to sequence the pneumococcal or the bacterial genome rather cheaply and easily. So we literally now have thousands of pneumococcal genomes which we can use to understand more about how the organism evolves with response to vaccination or antibiotics. We can understand more about the pneumococcal biology more generally, and we can use that information then to try and understand how to prevent disease and possibly how to develop new vaccines and antibiotics.
So why does your line of research matter, and why should we put money into it?
Well, it's quite clear that vaccines save lives, and it's much better to be able to prevent disease from occurring in the first place rather than have to try and treat disease for the reasons we've already mentioned. In addition, some children who survive pneumococcal disease, serious disease like meningitis, will often have long-term disabilities. So they may have brain damage, they may have hearing disabilities, hearing loss, developmental problems. So again, it's much better to prevent disease rather than treat disease.
How does your research fit into the translational medicine aspect within the department?
So our overriding aim is to use genomics to understand pneumococcal biology and pneumococcal evolution. And as I said, we have a lot more information available, and if we use that appropriately, then hopefully we can develop ways to improve the current vaccines and antibiotics, or possibly develop new, novel vaccines and antibiotics. And that would be a big success.
Thank you for speaking with us today, Angela.
You're welcome.